In my mid to late 20s, I knew that this life was bullshit, but you're stuck in it. And at the time, I just kept saying, well, then I'm going to be the strongest guy in this life.
That's the same mindset Sammy the Bull had.
Well, Sammy's full of shit. Sorry to cut you off. You know why he never did an interview with me? Because he's a fucking coward, and he's a liar, and I can abuse him. Because I'm a guy that was really a shooter. He wasn't. You got a record up on your wall that you killed Paul Castellano when you didn't kill him.
He was in the car across the street.
He wasn't. I don't even believe that story.
Him and John were across the street watching it?
No,
they confirmed the kill?
I don't. That's his story. Who's confirming that besides him?
Why did he turn on you?
Because he turns on everybody. That's why a snake is a snake.
Would you sit across from him and say these things?
Of course.
John Gotti spoke to you about
Didn't want me to be friendly with Sammy because he wanted me to kill him eventually.
What's this beef with Joey Merlino? And you were actually contracted to kill him.
Every little shooting, every little act, I mean, I can run through some of them. You're not going to remember all of them. It's impossible to remember all because you're doing too much.
Are you still capable of committing the same actions from your former life in your early 20s as you are today?
Stack the books up, hit the spyglass, search and look up. The lazy intellectual, the podcast, the hookup. Romanous to give a toast up with the good stuff. Took a puff, then in reverse, I lit a stick up. It's obvious, the need to sit down and politic. What's on your mind? Share with the audience, the Christ fearing Assyrian. Giving them providence, Omega my wrist, shine in my face cause I polished it. From the time when the emperors reigned, what is it? To lose your soul, but the whole world gained. I think it's insane, God memorized your name. From the deaf, dumb, blind, even the lame. It's like a torch flame, illuminating a cave. No mummy rap, we up out of the grave. Thanks and praise every day for God's grace. So slide through, watch an interview and get a taste.
Today I have with me a former hitman for the Mafia Gambino crime family who was associated with John Gotti and who has estimated to have shot between 30 and 40 people, has at least batted 100 people, and has murdered 7. John Alite, aka John Alite. Thank you for opening up your home with me.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, so we have a lot to get into with your story, and I just want to understand and manage expectations for the audience that the psychology of what it takes to make it in this life. Because you've done a million interviews, and they've all asked you the same questions. I want to ask you questions you've never been asked before. So your dad was not a mobster, but he grew up with them. He knew them. He was a gambler. He gambled with these guys, and then he taught you how to survive on the streets. Taught you how to be street smart, what it takes to make it in the Mafia, because that's the decision that you made. Fast forward 40 some years, and your son actually ends up in a shooting as well. So when your dad is teaching you how to survive in the streets versus you being a father now, what goes through your mind? Do you have flashbacks about your dad giving you lessons? Do you wish that it was a bit different with your children? And now that you're a father, do you see like the pain that your father might have went through seeing the life that you chose?
You know, first of all, it's a great question. And my friend Joe standing in the background, we spoke about doing another book about the psychology of this life. And I'm the complete opposite of my father. You know, I love my father. My father just passed, and, you know, rest in peace, my dad.
Rest in peace. I'm sorry to hear that.
Thank you. And his belief of what he thought was a good thing for me to survive the street and for me to succeed was his belief, because he came from a suppressed country, Albania, had no money, he had no education, formal education, schooling, 3rd grade. So he did what he thought was the best for me at the time, which in retrospect, it saved me, but it's a disaster of a life. And I do the opposite with my kids. My sons, I want them to be successful in business. I want them to go to work and do the right thing. I talk against the street openly. I'm not an advocate of the street or the mob or anything. I think it's about confidence. And I had one son that got himself in some trouble, but not involved with the mob or anything. And I lecture him crazy about staying off the street, making good decisions, consequences of your actions, decisions. So the psychology of it is, to me, is very important, that you have confidence. And confidence will change the direction from the street to education to the belief in a career, whether it's, you know, owning a business, whether it's driving a truck and then buying several, or whether it's becoming a doctor. But it's to go on the right path with confidence.
I see. Is it true that there was a story where you conducted a Mafia hit with your son in the backseat of the car?
No, my son was, stories are stories, I guess. But he happened to be in the car, yes.
Was it the same son that we were just previously talking about?
No, and at the time he was maybe 3 years old, 4 years old. I don't remember his age, but it was somewhere around there, 4 years old, I think.
Yeah.
I was in the car with my brother-in-law, ran into a guy that I wanted to shoot that I haven't found, and I couldn't find him. He happened to go in a store, so I pulled the car into a gas station, told my brother-in-law, stay here. And I went out and I shot the guy. And my son was in the car, though, but not with me at the shooting.
Why were you going after this man?
Over money. He used to work for me. And I thought he stole money from one of the guys that was employed with me. And I thought he didn't do the right thing. And I ended up going after him.
I see. Was it destiny for you to join the Mafia, or do you think your fate could have been changed?
I hate to say destiny because a lot of people, we grow up where I say in an area code where that dictates your life in a lot of cases. So if you grow up in Malibu, obviously you're not going to be exposed to the Mafia. If you grow up in Brooklyn or Queens, you're going to be exposed to the Mafia. So I wouldn't say it's destiny. I think it's still a choice. But again, unfortunately, those areas do breed guys like me that do some stupid things that ruin their lives. And when you look back now, you wish you could change it. You can't. That's just part of the past.
So if your father moved you out of the neighborhood, let's say he took you to the suburbs before you were even born, your family was raised there, like you were just saying, Malibu versus New York, would you still have been enlightened or like interested in that lifestyle? Or do you think it would be a completely different situation for you?
No, it would be completely different. You're not exposed to the elements that I was exposed to. Not just with my father, but the whole element of where I grew up. My baseball coach was a mob boss's son. My girlfriend's father and uncle were mobsters. My barber was my father's friend, was a bookmaker and a gangster. So I was around, circled within the mob every which direction I went. If I grew up in the suburbs somewhere and I wasn't in that atmosphere, I wouldn't have that exposure.
Ronnie Martino, that was a mentor of yours. You viewed the life of a mobster as like these old timers as like professors in the game, right? So what was he telling you in your ear? Was he telling you, hey, don't work with this person, watch out for that guy, don't go into business with these people, stay on this part of the neighborhood? Like, what was he putting in your ear to be a successful guy? Is there really such thing as like a mafia mentor, and was he that to you?
Everything you just said is what he did say, actually. Really? And they nicknamed him Mousy because he was a skinny guy, and he used to talk about that. He says, don't judge people by their size, their weight, how they look, how they speak. Remember that anybody could be dangerous. And he always had switchblades. So you would open up a switchblade and he'd tell me, see this little thing? This negates anybody that's 6'6" and 300 pounds. So, those are the things that they're telling you and they're mentoring you. They're telling you who not to trust. Yeah. Telling you to keep your mouth shut. Don't tell guys things because in 10 years from now, they might not be your friends. They'll use it against you. So
how could you trust him, though, versus other guys?
Well, because you're looking at him. He's an older fella. And, I've known him since I'm a little kid. And he's kind of becoming like an uncle to me because I'm with him day and night. And, so he has a different belief when he's talking to me, I believe. Even now, I still believe that because he had more of a family attitude towards me because he knew me since I'm a kid, since I'm 10 years old. So he's kind of raising me in that world, and he's trying to help me and navigate some of the wise guys that I'm meeting. So he doesn't have any real loyalty to any one group.
Just the life.
Just the life itself.
Yeah. Did he ever look down upon or treat you differently, or did any guy in general, because you weren't Italian, because you're Albanian, did any of those guys been like, you knew they were hiding information from you because they couldn't fully trust you? Because at the end of the day, back then, I mean, racist might not be the right word. It was just the way that people thought. That was it. Italians stick with Italians. Middle Easterns stick with Middle Easterns. Albanians stick with Albanians. So when a young Albanian guy comes in the picture, do they not share information with you? Like, how does that go?
No, it's again, I guess if it's an outsider, somebody's Iranian, because I got Iranian friends, Syrian friends, right? We'll talk about a Syrian. it's not going to be the same closeness as some of the Albanian people that I grew up with and friends that I grew up with and cousins and different things, unless they grew up with me since we're kids. Then that negates that. Because when you develop a relationship years later with somebody who's, whatever, he's Spanish, and you didn't meet him until you're in your 30s or 40s. It's not the same thing as an Italian guy that I grew up with since I'm, like my friend that was in the other room, Sal, right? So we grew up with each other since we're kids. So there is no, he's Italian, he's Albanian, he's Irish. We wouldn't care. We had the same trust value with each other and same loyalty because of the closeness since we grew up together and we know each other in and out. But when you meet somebody later on in life, yeah, I think that does make a difference.
I see. The thing is, we were just talking about this off camera, with you guys from the East Coast, especially you mob guys, your memories are ridiculous. You can tell a story from 2 decades ago with every single detail to the hair, absolutely accurate, like it happened yesterday. And you guys are, that's why it makes you guys good storytellers. Why do you think that is? Why do you guys have such good memories?
Survival instinct. And it's very important. First, by the way, I'm an ex-mobster, so.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's all right. But I clarified for the people that say that, because I am against that life. But it's survival, because the more that you understand in that world and the more you remember of that world, and those instincts are constantly worked on to keep you alive. So people tell you all the time, well, this guy got shot up, this guy gets, of course they did, because they exposed themselves. When you're on the street, it's almost impossible, unless you're really not in the mix, not to get hurt bad. And the guys that don't, either they weren't about anything, or I can't say very lucky, because anybody that's really out there that put themselves out there in that world, if you're real, you might hurt a lot of guys, but you're going to get hurt yourself also. It's just part of the life. And I don't know too many guys like myself. We've been shot, we've been stabbed up, we've been battered. We're very lucky. Guys try to kill us many times, plotted against us. And you're very lucky when you don't end up dead, because a lot of guys, when they're serious guys, they're going to get killed out there. And, I ramble through names always of guys from my neighborhood, they're all dead.
The ex-mob life that you had, perfect memory up until the police come. Then you guys don't know nothing. You don't remember anything. So that always was funny to me. But okay, you mentioned that you've shot estimated between 30 and 40 people. You don't condone that lifestyle anymore. But when we talk about it, it's for history and it's for lessons learned, right? But what is the exact number and why is it estimation?
It's hard to tell you the exact number, because it's not like, we shoot pool here and we play 1 game or 2 games. Of course you remember it's 1 or 2 games. But if I asked you what you had for lunch 6 years ago, how are you going to remember that? Because you're going to lunch every day. So I'm doing this every day. So this is something that you're doing. So somebody that does it once or twice, of course they remember that, because that's something that's, you never did that before. It's 1 or 2 times. When it's a regular basis, every little shooting, every little act, I can run through some of them. You're not going to remember all of them. It's impossible to remember all because you're doing too much. You're going to work every day like somebody does in construction. And you ask him, how many houses off the cuff, how many houses do you think you did? He could give you an estimate, but he's not going to tell you. He's in a house every day of the week. He's in 7 houses, 6 houses, 12 houses. And after 10 years, how many houses? He's going to say, I don't know. I did this every week. No different in that life.
But this is a bit more traumatic, no?
No, traumatic. You know what? I yelled at a guy in prison once when he was bullshitting me. And I used the word you just said. I said, you did it once, you'd remember every detail. You do it twice, you'll remember most of the details. I said, so you're telling me some bullshit story, and I know you're lying to me because you only did it once. So I said, that would be something that's traumatic to your life that you'll never forget. You'll remember almost everything. But when you're doing it on a regular basis, it's like a fighter going in the ring. He's in the ring fighting 150 guys over his career, whether it's amateur career along with, unless you're Tito Trinidad where you fought crazy. But you're not going to remember every detail because this is something you're doing every single day.
Guys like Anthony Aralata, who I interviewed previously, said after he killed someone, he slept like a baby. Do you believe him, first of all?
No.
Why?
I like Anthony, but I don't believe him.
It got to you?
Yeah, of course it did.
What did it do to you?
There's something wrong with somebody to say that. I think they're lying. I I think I've heard Ralph Natale say that before from Philly. He's dead now. I don't want to talk against these guys, but
How did he die? Natural causes?
yeah, Ralph.
He was an old man, right?
Yeah, he's an old man. But I think those are bullshit stories. I think that if you have human decency, you know, I have PTSD. I've talked about that
From
in
the
past.
shootings you've conducted?
From my lifestyle. You know, you got a lot of veterans that seen action, and obviously they have the same. You have police officers that seen action that go through the same traumatic things to that extent over a long period of time. And you know, maybe I wasn't there when Anthony Arlotta said he killed. Did he do the shooting? Did he dismember the body? Did he bury the body? I don't know. Was he talking about as a captain, he ordered somebody else to do it, and then he went to sleep? That's a different story.
I think the specific instance he was saying that he pulled the triggers.
Okay, so if he pulled the trigger and he said he went to sleep, I just can't believe that, you know. But that's his answer, not mine. So.
Well, walk me through your mindset after you just shot somebody. Do you go home? Do you go to the bar to take a drink to get the edge off? Do you go smoke pot so you can relax? Like, what is going on through your mind? How do you escape that reality?
At the time, that's a different question, and maybe I'm misinterpreting his answer.
Sure.
Because maybe my answer would be the same. At the time, yeah, you don't even think about it. I went to go eat. I went to go anywhere. It didn't faze me at all. After time I'm talking about, it does bother me. So maybe at the time, his answer was at the time, and then I could believe that. But once you step back from that world and you said, what the fuck did I do to my life? What did I do to other people's lives? What effect did I put on my family, other people's family? Of course it bothers you. I've been to therapy my whole life, and I talked to my therapist about this over the years. Like Sopranos, it was a joke with Tony Soprano. But in reality, psychologically, you cannot be normal to say that it doesn't bother you. It just can't. You know, I was talking to someone the other day, and I was talking about baseball batting somebody. As a young guy, you really don't get it. Like you're cracking someone over the head with a bat. You really don't get what you're doing. I don't know why you don't get it, but you don't get it.
I think I
As
get it.
you
That'd
get
be
older,
crazy.
you get it. And you don't realize you're going to kill them, too.
Yeah.
You know, you're thinking like you get, you know, you ever see a bunch of kids on the news and they're pounding a kid?
Yeah.
And, you know, they're too stupid to know they're kicking them and stomping them, and then they kill the kid.
What do you think that's going to do to them at the end of the day?
I don't think they're not really getting the point that they think they're just hurting them. I don't think their intentions is to, because they're just too young and stupid to understand if you keep pounding someone's head and hitting it on the ground or stepping on his head and his neck, you may kill him.
Right.
And, you know, it's being young, it's being naive, it's being, in that case, a bully when you see 10 guys jump in one and they're all high-fiving each other and tooting and wooting and whatever they're doing. They're fucking cowards.
It's sick.
Yeah, it's cowards.
Was there anyone in the life that you knew at the time more violent than you? Or do you think that you were probably up there, top 5, top 3 mob guys active that was the go-to, call you whatever, the former hitman, the former muscle?
I don't know. I know a couple guys in my neighborhood were violent. I talk about one all the time. But I don't think anybody was violent to my extent. No, I don't think anybody was. I can't remember anybody being as violent as me, actually, no.
Was there anyone in the life that you knew for a fact that they didn't have the stomach or capabilities of doing what you did, or even to the extent of it? So like you were saying, they're either in the life or they're BSing. They're not really about it.
You know, the thing is, it's like most guys, you sit down like me and you were sitting across from each other, and all of them want to be the alpha male in the room, in that life. But over time, you can pick them apart and you know they're full of shit. I know they're full of shit. They don't understand that you can see through them. I know they're not about nothing. I know back then they weren't about anything. I know they weren't going to do much back then. I know they were cowards. I know they were big mouths. I know they had balls if you went through the door first, and then 5 guys came with you. But I know if you put them in and there was 5 guys against them, they'd run. You know, so I know the mentality because I grew up in that life where I understood. And I could see through guys that were full of shit, who were faking it. I know guys still to today that, you know, I don't talk to them. They were in the life, but they never did nothing. Zero.
So it's possible to be in the life without hurting or killing anybody.
And faking your way through the life as a killer, yeah. 100%.
Even as a made guy, though?
Yeah, there's a ton of them.
But how are you supposed to be a made guy back then? You were supposed to kill someone in order to get made, no?
Not necessarily. You know, back then, again, there's a lot of nepotism that people don't understand in the mob. It's like if you're a guy that worked at Wall Street and your cousin's the CEO, he's going to elevate you up to a management position right away. He's not leaving you on the floor as a clerk. You know, it's the same thing. It's no different. They want somebody who's a relative of them to be next to them, that they can trust is loyal to them. They want that person there to tell them how much money is being made. They want that person to, and you got to remember, a lot of people walk around with guys like me, and they believe, well, since I'm violent, he stays with them. No, they must be violent too. And they fake their way through. But back then, you didn't have to be, to go back to your question, you didn't have to really kill somebody to be in the mob. That's a fallacy. You could be part of that team, meaning you just went and got the car and brought it to somebody. That guy took a hit team and they killed somebody. You're part of that hit.
Right.
And, you know, so you have guys bullshitting too about that.
So in your mind, if you don't pull the trigger, you didn't actually commit a hit.
Not necessarily that either. You know, it depends on the situation. Each situation is different. But to pass an order on to somebody else who passes it on to somebody else, passes it on to somebody else. I mean, as a criminal act, for sure it's a criminal act. But to say that you're the guy on the front lines like in the Marines, no. It's easy to sit at home and give an order to 10 other people while the guy that's doing it, or the guy that's with them in some of those situations. Depends on the situation. I can ask you to come with me. We go across the street into a house when there's 6 guys, and you're walking into a death trap with me, and I shoot a guy and kill him. Yeah, that's a hit that you should get credit for, as you know, taking your life at risk. But then there's other situations that if we're having a cup of coffee, and I ask my friend Joe now, while we're doing this interview, shoot you in the back of the head. I'm a coward for doing that. That doesn't take anything. It's just me being a weasel and a sneak and let you sit here while he sneaks up behind you. So, you know, I don't have a lot of respect. I have respect for the guys in that life that put themselves in dangerous situations also, where it wasn't just one way. It's back to the Marines. These guys are going with weapons, facing other guys with weapons, where they could step on a man, on a mine, or they could be blown up from a distance. Those are the guys that are tough guys and heroes and real, use the word gangsters, but gangsters for America, for our freedom. So I have such respect for veterans because of that.
Absolutely.
But the mob stuff, I don't have respect for that. I don't have respect for the stuff I did either. Don't get it wrong.
Well, that's where I want to go to. And you wouldn't respect me as an interviewer if I didn't give some hard questions. So let me lay this one on you. December 20th, 1988, the night where you were at the White Horse Tavern in Queens. A man named George Grosso.
Grosso.
Talk to me about that night.
So I was in church the other day, right? You talk about
Sure.
how you sleep. I actually prayed for him, right? I took his life and I prayed for him. Now, I'm not happy that I killed him back then. Back then, I wanted to. I did for several reasons. One, it was an order. 2, because he spoke about killing me. So in that life, when someone is stupid enough to talk about killing you and it gets back, you don't talk about it. You just go do it and get rid of the guy. And that's what I did in short. You know, when you go back today and say, am I happy that I took his life? No, but my life situation put me there. And there's no excuses for it. I put myself in that life. And my father's not my excuse. So I'm not that guy that's going to say, poor me, and blame my father or blame the mob. Those are my shitty choices. And, you know, I regret them. I can't go back in the past. I don't go back in the past. And that's one of the reasons I do what I do now.
I think you are one of the few people from that life, that was your former life, that have taken full responsibility for your actions. A lot of these guys I listen to blame everybody else.
Because when you blame everybody else, you're not really regretting that life, right? So, you know, they want to glorify that life. I'm not glorifying that life. I was fucking wild, stupid, crazy. I wanted to do the things I did for whatever reason. I don't really know. That's why I went to therapy all these years, to understand myself and the psychology about it. But the guys that talk like that, I don't think they did much really. Because if they did much, they wouldn't talk like that. That's just bullshit insecurity, trying to fake still the past that they never did nothing back then. And, so the guy that's really getting in the ring, he has nothing to prove. He goes in the ring every day.
Right. That makes sense. So let's talk about some of these guys that you're alluding to. So first of all, it is very crazy to me that they can even say that everything you're saying is BS. Because quick Google search, I found your records.
Yeah.
I can see everything that you were charged for. So unless you're lying, there would be no records online. So why do people call you out all the time?
Because I call all them out. I'm one guy.
But you can prove it. So what's the point?
Because I'm like President Trump, right? Like him or not like him. He says it straight. He doesn't care. He doesn't need 2,000 guys behind him. He stands on his own intellectually. That's a completely different analogy, but same thing. I don't give a fuck about any of them. I don't care what they think. I don't care they don't like that I say I'm pro-police. I don't care that they don't like that I talk to kids and advocate not to live that life. I don't care what the fuck they think. I just know they're all full of shit. I know I was in the hospital stabbed up several times. I know I was in the hospital, got baseball batted several times. I know I was in the hospital because I got shot. I know I spent years in prisons because they gave me up. I know everything, and I don't need to justify shit to any of these guys because I know they really weren't about it. If they were about it, they would talk very specific about what they did. None of them do.
Okay, so then Patrick Bet-David in December of 2024 had a follow-up interview with John Gotti Jr., who was best man at your wedding in 1990, right? So he actually tried to stir up the pot between you two again, and he asked Gotti Jr. to say some things about you. And to his credit, he said he's hurting right now. God rest her soul. Your daughter passed away. He's like, I'm not going to kick him when he's down. He said that. So when you hear stuff like that, do you think that there's a possibility to reconcile with your former associates and friends, or is no chance? Because it seems that, to me, the older that you guys are becoming, the less hot-tempered it is, the more wisdom is coming out of it and reflection. Is there a possibility of reconciliation?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I appreciate what he said. He knows I lost my daughter. He knows what it is to lose a family member. And I don't have, and for me, that's gone too. I don't even like talking about him in a negative way about anything because he did suffer a lot in his life also. So did his family. And he did get betrayed by everybody. And so did his father. But so did I. I sat in a penitentiary doing the right thing. And everybody betrayed me. I never got caught. So this fallacy in the storyline that's out there about me getting caught, first off, if I want to cooperate, I never run out of the country. Second, I don't spend millions on lawyers. Third, I stopped talking to all my family, lost all my children because I wouldn't talk. And I left them all to protect my friend, my mob friends. Not my friends, because they're not my friends. That's bullshit. Anybody tell you they're your friends. They're your work friends for money, for power, for notoriety, but not for fucking loyalty. That's nonsense. So when I sat in those jails, timeline is everything, and I always talk about this. Timeline. When I sat in those jails, I was never caught with a fucking thing. Not with weapons, not at a crime scene, nothing. No drugs. I never got caught with bullets. I never got caught with videos or pictures. Zero. And I was willing to sit in a concentration camp for almost 3 years, sticking knives up my ass to survive. And that's not me talking. There's 10 guys that still talk to me around the world and do interviews about us all in the Brazilian jails. We did a 4-part series about my friend that was with us, his life in those Brazilian jails. We talked about the murders that were going on in those jails. Those were suicide jails. Those were jails where there's guns in the jail, there's machetes in the jails, and hundreds of people are dying in those jails. Those are the jails where there's no light and you're shitting in a floor, in a hole in the floor. Those are the jails where there's rats this big. Those are the jails when they're defecating upstairs and it's falling on your head while you're sleeping. You have jails in a third world country where there's 12-man cells and there's 58 of us, or even close to 60-something at some times. When it's raining inside, it's freezing inside. So that's not United States comfortable jails. And while I sat there, you had captains, you had bosses, you had underbosses from several families that were all talking and they were all pointing at Johnny Alite, was no longer an Albanian, but Johnny Alite was the killer. Johnny Alite, everybody was afraid of. Johnny Alite, if I'm not nice to him, like Ronnie One-Arm said in his opening statement, I'm a captain, but if I'm not nice to him, he'll kill me like everybody else. So that wasn't a stand-up guy. That was, in that life, he gave me up. In that life, you had the boss of the Bonanno family wearing a wire while I was in those penitentiaries. You had his underboss. You had all his captains ratting. In my family, the Gambino family, they were all ratting. So, and I'm talking about the made guys now. Not 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. So I'm in those jails in 2004, 5, 6, and on the way home to the United States of America in 2007, after they all talked, all ratted, all gave profits, all started more investigations against me, along with the associates, along with guys that were proposed to be made guys, all of them giving me up. And then Johnny Alite said, fuck you guys, the mob, and you want to make this an Italian thing, because I like that they always do this, Albanian and Italian. My family's half Italian, my family's Greek, some family members are Jewish. I don't have no qualms with any race, religion, so we'll straighten that out when people hear me talking against Italians. I'm talking about the mob guys. I'm not talking about Italians, because my family's, like I said, half Italian. So now, when these conversations occur, no one's telling the truth. None of them will sit with me and say, well, where were you while I was sitting in those penitentiaries? Were you guys making meetings? Were you guys ratting? What were you all doing? When guys write me, because they write me all the time, and talk about rats and this and that, well, get at it if you want. There's a million mob bosses that ratted. Where were you when Joe Messina ratted, Al DiArco ratted, Chucky Porter ratted, what's his name I was just talking about that just died, Natali, when he ratted, Leonetti ratted. They're all out there. Go kill them. Why are you talking about me for? I didn't take an oath to shit, first off. Second, you betrayed me. I didn't betray you. And third, I moved on with my life. I don't give a fuck what you guys are doing.
So you said they betrayed you, you didn't betray me. That's the same mindset Sammy the Bull had going into the trial.
Well, Sammy's full of shit. Sorry to cut you off.
No, you're fine. Then we can get into that. I want to know why you think that way. Because first, he was a made guy. He was the underboss of Gotti. Gotti was a legitimate heavyweight. You worked for him. You took orders from him, right? And his son's obviously was a good friend of yours. So how did a man in that position get to that position in the hierarchy? I know there's nepotism involved, but you still have to be capable, because then no one would respect you, no?
Well, I invite you like I invite everybody. Do an interview with him, interview the guy, and ask him a specific question. Sammy, tell me how many times you pulled that trigger. I think it was once 50-something years ago, one time first. Second time is when he killed a 16-year-old kid, Kaiser, who's an innocent baby, not a gangster. And that's not what mob guys do, is kill innocent children. And his excuse for that killing was he witnessed some sort of crime and murder, whatever. I don't give a fuck what he witnessed. You knock on his door back in the late 70s, early 80s, and you say, hey, Pop, your son's seen something. If anybody comes around, he saw nothing, you understand? And in those days, nobody talked. There was no cameras in those days. There was no talking to the police in those days. There was a different era. And I guarantee you, that kid would have never said a peep. He would have said, I didn't say anything.
How long have you known this for? This information where Sammy's only got like 2 bodies that he's pulled the trigger for under his belt.
Look it up. He said it himself in open court. He said it out of his own mouth. How long have you known? I know for years.
Okay, so when he got out of jail, you threw him some dollars to help him out, right?
He called me like everybody calls me, and they asked for help. And when he called me and asked for help, I gave him $3,000. Did he pay it back? That tells you his character. The man has screwed over everybody in his life since he's young. Since he started in the Colombo family, when the Colombo family wanted to kill him, his best friend Louis saved his life. And a thank you to Louis years later was he set him up and had him killed. So, you know, this is Sammy's personality. But when he talks about John, right, and I'll tell you about John, and John did this. First of all, Sammy, you took an oath, right? You're the Italian guy that took an oath. Second, you also said you love Brooklyn, you never want to leave, but you're staying here. Third, you got a record up on your wall that you killed Paul Castellano when you didn't kill him.
He was in the car across the street.
He wasn't even, I don't even believe that story.
Him and John were across the
I
street
don't
watching
believe
it.
him.
And
No,
they
I don't-
confirmed the kill.
I don't, that's his story. Who's confirming that besides him? Because I know Spark Steakhouse. I know the street. It's not, first of all, it's very simple. Why I call him a fucking liar that he wasn't there is because there's no way during Christmas with a body in the middle of the street with police all over and people, he claims he got around that body. He drove right next to it, looked down it to see if Paul was killed and Tommy Bilotti was killed, and then he drove past. That's not believable. You're not getting past that.
Okay, one last question before we'll keep going. But could you have said no to giving him money when he asked?
Yeah, I could have said no.
But why'd you give it to him?
I don't know. I tell you the truth, I shouldn't have gave it to him, and I helped a lot of guys. But the one thing I did tell guys since I came home, this ain't like the old days. You fucked me once, you're done with me. I'll never be bothered with you again. And I kept to that.
Why did he turn on you?
Because he turns on everybody. It's why a snake is a snake. It's because he's a snake. Sammy's who he is. He's never going to change. He's done it this way his whole life. He's fucked everybody over any which way he can. And that's who the guy is. Is he a coward? Fucking he's a coward. He's hiding in Arizona. If you want to be that guy, sit here like I do. Be that guy.
Would you sit across from him and say these things?
Of course. He
Face to
never-
face?
You know why he never did an interview with me? Because he's a fucking coward and he's a liar. And I can abuse him because I'm a guy that was really a shooter. He wasn't.
But he's an old man now. Do you think he's not?
Well, he's an old man. You're not going to fight him. He's just an old man. You're just going to talk.
Will you think he can keep up with you? Because you're sharp. I'm not saying he's not sharp, but can he keep up with you?
Liars can't keep up. He's a liar. Because when you lie, you got to remember your lie is on top of a lie. When it's the truth, it's easy to talk.
Does it personally offend you when you hear other mob guys from the former of that life talking about their lives as if it's a fact and you know different, or do you just let them talk? Like, how do you view that?
People talk. I look at people because they want to feel important. They want to feel like they know something. They want to feel like I always use this analogy. I don't talk about a car engine because I know shit about car engines. So why should I talk about a car engine? But these guys that don't know nothing about an engine, they'll still talk like they know. Mm-hmm. They'll still talk about, boxing and they don't know how to throw a punch. They'll talk about Sammy Gravano as if they know what the fuck they're talking about the guy. And then he's bullshitting about John made him his underboss. They don't understand the mob. John Gotti, 110% factual, was killing Sammy. He was just, when you put a pig on a turn and you're gonna barbecue him, he was just oiling him down.
At what point
Eventually,
was he gonna
kill him?
When he got caught in the 90s?
Oh, he was gonna kill him before that. We spoke about it, and anybody with a half a brain knows.
John Gotti spoke to you about
didn't want me to be friendly with Sammy because he wanted me to kill him eventually. So I knew he was getting killed. But for anybody that's listening to tapes in the Ravenite, when he's talking to Frankie Loke, he's telling Frankie Loke, without saying it directly, let's get rid of Sammy. He wanted Frankie Loke to give the okay, and he wanted to kill him. Not that he needed Frankie Loke's okay. And I'm talking about Frankie Loke's the concierge.
Why would he make Sammy his underboss if he was just going to get rid of him?
Because when you have Frankie DeChico was actually John's underboss. Frankie DeChico was close to Sammy. John wasn't close to Sammy. So when Sammy tells this tale of how close he was to John, John had no respect for him. You didn't see Frankie DeChico holding umbrellas for John,
him on the surveillance.
but you see Sammy holding them.
Right.
So there's something that people got to really understand. But when Frankie DeChico dies, John needs somebody to run a crew from Brooklyn that's loyal to the Brooklyn crew that's already there. And that's Sammy fell into that spot. So he already had control of those guys first. Also, he needed to keep Sammy close because Sammy knew details about the Castellano hit because Frankie DeChico was close to him. Mm-hmm. So he put him in the know. John didn't really put him in the know as Sammy tries to portray the story. The story was from Frankie DeChico to Sammy. Frankie DeChico made Sammy money originally. Frankie DeChico brought him around. Frankie DeChico is the one that controlled him. He kissed Frankie DeChico's ass, Sammy. And when all this happened, when he ratted on John Gotti Sr., Joey DeChico, Butter, abused Sammy crazy in the videos. If somebody watches the old videos of Butter, Butter was the brother of Frankie, and Georgie DeChico was also a powerful captain. Why did he abuse him? Because he knew that Sammy was a fraud. And all of us knew that John had to keep him close at that time. And he had to keep him in a good position because he had to keep him next to him because you keep your enemies closer. You want to kill him, you can kill him anytime you feel like killing him. So he eventually was going to kill Sammy. He knew Sammy had to go. And that's one thing Sammy had a little bit of an instinct of. He knew that John really didn't like him. He knew he didn't respect him. He knew he'd eventually kill him.
But if that's the case, why he talks highly of John till this day. He says that John is a capable killer. Don't get it twisted. That he's actually a tough guy, but he didn't need to do the dirty work anymore because he became boss. So first, why would he talk highly of John if that's the case? And second, do you think John Gotti was actually capable of handling like how you were?
Well, John's the boss now. It's like Paul Castellano, who's not a killer, but he killed more guys than anybody, Paul. He killed
Paul
more
was
than
a
John.
killer.
He had, well, not in his own hand, but he had more guys killed than John did. But if Sammy doesn't talk about John, who the fuck is Sammy? No one even would know him. They only know him because of his storytelling. Without John, there is no Sammy. So he's got to constantly talk about John. And he's got to constantly talk about John and elevate John as much as he can because he's trying to elevate himself. So John didn't need to elevate Sammy. He says John only had to talk and do what he... Listen, Sammy can say anything he wants. I was around John since I'm a baby. I watched guys, if John told them, kiss my shoe, they kiss it. Kiss my ass, they'll kiss it. Go next door and eat fucking dog shit, they'll do it. I watch him control everybody. So anybody could say whatever the hell they want about John. They weren't there. They didn't sleep in his house. I did. I know exactly what he did. I know exactly how he treated all these guys, how he talked to all these guys, who he respected, who he didn't respect. One thing, John was a mastermind of how to manipulate people. So when Sammy's saying anything about John, I don't believe a fucking thing. Even when they got locked up, they knew they were getting locked up because I told them they were getting locked up because I had a detective, Phil Baroni, who worked for me, who killed with me, matter of fact, was with me when I killed George Grosso, was friendly with Joe Coffey. Joe Coffey told them they were going to pinch John. Phil came back and told me. So they knew that was coming. So when Sammy pretends and he gives his storyline that nobody knows, there's a lot of guys that really know what went on here in the background. And he's just full of shit guy that's getting away with it for years because he throws that title around.
Correct me if I'm wrong, that John told his son to distance himself from you as well. So talk to me about that story and how is there credibility? And because you lived in, or you slept in his house, you saw what John was doing. Why did John tell his son to distance himself from you, if that's the case?
Well, first, I don't know if John said that ever. I would never know if he did. But here's what I could say. Mm-hmm. When we're picking up from John from court, I'm in the video, yes? With Iggy and John Jr. picking Senior up from court. When I'm in his son's wedding, there was only 300 people there. I'm there, yes. When I'm at his daughter's wedding, in her wedding party, I'm there, yes. These are all on the father's orders. When I'm at his daughter's honeymoon in Las Vegas with his son, I'm there, yes. So when I go on to Florida, to the Marriott Hotel, the Yankee Clipper, with Mikey Scars was a captain, and Joe Watson, Bobby Borriello, and John Sr., I'm there, yes. When he stays in a condominium in Ventnor, New Jersey, in Atlantic City, John Gotti Sr., I'm there, yes, because it was my friend's place. So I can continue with all these. I'm everywhere. When I'm in front of the Ravenite, and Sammy said he didn't know me in 1984, and I put out a video, I'm there. I'm walking in and out with John, the father. In 1988, I have another video that was out. I put that one out to show people I'm in it. When I'm walking out of the house in 85th Street and 160th Avenue, that's his house on the corner, I'm walking in and out of his house into limousines with the family. I'm there. So every Friday night when we're at Donatello's for dinner, I'm there with his family. This is not, whoever's talking nonsense, you can't stop them from talking nonsense. Anybody that's from my neighborhood that grew up, know I was at that Bergen every day. There's a room full, on Saturdays we would have dinner at 4 o'clock about, and there's a room, that table was filled only for made guys except for me. It was the only seat at that table. That the guy wasn't made, was me sitting at that table. So as this stuff is, this is just simple, everyday things that went on in our lives. When I went to Paul Castellano's house, I'm sitting in his car with him, with Bobby Borriello. I'm not going to be with these guys and I'm not going to be around the way I am if he didn't want me around. I wouldn't be sleeping on his couch. I wouldn't be in his house. I wouldn't be nowhere. And all the shooting I did and all the drug dealing and every other thing I did, if that man didn't like me, I would have been pieces all over the neighborhood. Nobody would get away with what I did, especially when he was the boss at that time.
Was there anything in the life that you did where you were like, what are we doing? The Mafia is not supposed to be doing this. Was there anything that blew you away where it just caught you off guard?
Of course. Listen, I love John. I looked up to him, a young guy. I was in the life. I believed in the life. I loved watching him. I love, you want to copy him. It was like us copying ball players. You really look at him. You're proud to be with him. We'd go to Konos together. We'd go to different places together. I'd watch John. I'd watch people jump. He was fun to go out when he was drinking, hanging out with. And then, I would say to myself, afterwards, I would question things, of course. Like, what the fuck am I doing?
What did you saw that you can talk about that messed you up? Where you're like, I can't believe they did this.
Well, there's certain things you don't like when you're abusing just regular people in restaurants, or there's little things. It doesn't got to be a serious thing. It's just little things you don't like. Sometimes you see them embarrass somebody in front of their wife or their kid. There's things I would never do. I just didn't like it. That wasn't my personality. People knew me. I said, unless you hurt one of my friends, I was very violent against you if you hurt one of my friends. If you did something to me personally, I was, they used to call me Flip because I'd go from being a very nice guy to I just lose it and I'd do something. So, I had a million nicknames, but that world. That world is, you can't survive being a gentle guy. You try to get it, you try to be nice, and some of the things John did teach me was, stop being so fucking friendly. And he was right. And I was wrong. I just wanted to be, because in that world, you just can't be.
So it goes back to the Bronx Tale question. Would you rather be feared or loved? So you had to have been feared. You can't be loved in that life, right?
Yeah, you ain't nobody loves you in that life. That's bullshit.
It's all fake.
Yeah, it's fake.
What's the most gut-wrenching moment you had while serving as a New York mobster?
Either, when you're robbing someone you really don't want to rob, and you're hurting someone you really don't want to hurt, but you have to do it. When you're taking orders that, you think back and you say, listen, I really don't want to do this. To yourself, like, this guy's not a bad guy. And you got to hurt him, or you got to shoot him, or you got to, stab him, or whatever. It's a life that you don't have the choice. There was a cousin of mine who betrayed me, Billy Queso. And same thing, I told some of my friends they didn't want to hurt him because they hung out with him a lot. And I said, go baseball bat him. And there was another time where I was going to stab him up myself. I was going to kill him, actually, not stab him up. And he just got lucky. My daughter walked in the backyard at the time in Howard Beach. It saved his life because I took the butcher knife out. I was going to put it through his neck, and I had a tarp already hidden in the backyard in the shed. So he was going for betraying me with Ronnie Wonham. So it's just part of that life. And you look back and you think about it, it's just a terrible life. And it was terrible choices you made and things, and that's why I'm so against that life now. You wish you could take it back. You can't. The past is the past. You can only move forward and pray to God that, he forgives you, and, it's just part of it.
Were you the only Muslim in the Mafia?
Oh, I was raised, my family was Muslim, obviously, Albanian. Not obviously, there's a lot that are Christian. But they, Albania's not really secular, so they didn't really go to mosque. And we did a couple times when we were young, and nobody really forced us. They didn't even force us to go to school, so they weren't going to force us to go to mosque or church or anything else. And all my friends were Catholic.
Right.
So
that's why I was asking, because you see the movies. They got the gold chains on with the crosses on it, like literally like this, all the time flashing it. They take their kids and get them baptized and christened, and everyone's their godfather, whatever. So did they not see you and be like, we can't let this guy in? Not just because he's Albanian at this point, but because he's not Christian. So did you see them as when they would act that way as just like a cultural thing, or it's like they didn't really mean it, or it was just so ingrained in them from their families that they were Catholic, they just didn't understand, didn't have those relationships with Christ, just didn't abide by it whatsoever, or was it just all fake?
It's a hard question. I don't know. I just, myself, I know when I was trying to find God, Especially back then, I never could. And then in jail, I used to try to find it, and I couldn't find them there.
How'd you try? What were you doing?
I'd pray, I'd read the Bible, I'd go to church in jail, and I would just like, And then I'd use church as a gathering like I did my whole life, just to see some of your friends get out of the cell, go see other mob guys, we'd go to church, hang out, talk. And it wasn't for the right reasons. And I just thought it was kind of a crutch and a weakness. God was a weakness. And the guys that are in jail, I seen them go in and out, praying, then they go outside and they're doing coke and they're doing this and they're doing, criminal acts. And I'm like, you're full of shit. Then you go to church afterwards. I thought it was fake. But me, when I came home, I found God and I really believed in him, found him, studied, went to church a lot, went to the chapel a lot, found faith, and prayed for forgiveness always, prayed to have the strength to change my life, not to go hurt anybody that's talking against me, or people are agitating me or nudging me or poking at me. I didn't want to react the same, and so I went to therapy. I went to church on a constant basis, talked to my priest.
Who's your God?
Who's my God?
Yeah.
There's only one God, one Jesus Christ and Savior. So for me, when I kneel down and I talk to him, I ask him for, and he's the only person I ask for forgiveness from. People ask me that question. You can't live your life about how human beings feel about you. You can live your life how God feels about you, and he'll forgive me for what I've done. And, and I make amends. I try to make amends by the work I do with kids and some of my actions. Not talk, people can talk, you talk all you want, but that's not going to change. It's actions. So I really don't like a lot of people that talk because they really don't do anything. It's your actions that show are you real or not. And, people say, I heard you yelling at somebody. You're full of shit. I'm like, listen, you're a human being. You yell, and then you forgive yourself for yelling. You say, what did I yell for? And you catch yourself, and then you go back to being a good person. You're not perfect, but you're not doing anything wrong like before. Before, if somebody ever talked about hurting me or doing something to me, I would have got dressed and waited for him at 4 in the morning, 5 in the morning. I waited outside a guy's house, and he was... and I shot him up in the winter of, I think it was same thing, about 89 or something. And I shot him, I don't know, 4 or 5 times, I guess. But, you're waiting all night. Those days are well gone for me. I don't even think like that. I don't even think about waiting to yell at somebody, forget about hurt somebody. So.
Do you worry about your soul?
No. I think, again, that's, I only worry about doing the right thing with Christ, and I think I do that, and I just try to live my life right now. When you're out at night and you're tired and you don't want to get up in the morning and go to church, I do. So I know I'm a different person I used to be. I lost my daughter, which everybody knows, so it changed me even further towards God, not away from him. I mean, listen, people in general, I think, are weak. You see, I have a lot of family members that are Muslim, and I see them running all over the street about Trump and, the illegal stuff that goes on and, the wars that were going on. But then I say to myself, where are these Muslims? And I told my own cousins this, where are you when the Uyghurs are being slaved in China for so many years and you do nothing about it? And nobody says anything about it, that's okay. Or the slavery, the things that went on in Syria and other countries, in Lebanon. Where were you? Where's all the yelling and screaming then? Where's all the, where's all the leaders then? And same when I talk about LeBron James, because he does a lot of, and I use him specifically because he's a big name. And he's very boisterous against this country and, things that are going on. And to me, he's another guy that instigates race tension when it shouldn't be a subject that's, because we're all God's children. It doesn't matter what color you are, what religion you are. I don't like people like that because you're making millions and millions, maybe billions of dollars in China, LeBron, and you're okay with that. Your money that's being made there or slave labor, you're okay with. You're okay with all those Muslims being jailed and they're being re-educated, which is nonsense. They're stopping them from seeing their children and their families. Re-educated means being beat and tortured and whatever else is going on. But he's okay with that too. So when these people like him are talking, to me, they're sickening because they've done nothing but talk about this country and the veterans that gave their lives for this country, were lost their limbs for this country. The pro-police that I take as an advocate, he's another guy that instigates. But, you know, where are you? Go carry a gun and you go into these neighborhoods and go deal with guys like me that are like me now, like when I was back then, and see how big mouthy you got then. It's tough because you're a billionaire and you should be on your knees kissing the ground for this country. Instead, you're talking against this country. To me, it's sickening. And, you know, and again, if you don't like it here, like I tell everybody that doesn't like it here, I love Albania. I have an Albanian flag. I love my country. But here in America, I love America. We're patriots. It gives us opportunities, everybody. And it gives guys like me a second chance. So I'm always going to speak highly as a patriot. You know, I just don't like, you can love where you're from, but how dare you burn our flags? For the people that risk their lives and die for this country, the police that patrol the streets for this country, and you burn our flags. I heard the president say he wants to give them a year or two. They should get 5 years because there's no mistake by burning flags. You're doing it intentionally. So there's no way out of saying, you want to burn our flag, you want to step on that flag, it should be a law. You get 5 years in prison and you get kicked out to the country you ever came from. That should be more of on the pace of what should happen to somebody that disgraces our flag.
So you eventually realized in the Mafia that this is a life of treachery. When did you realize that? And then once you realized it, did you try to get out of the life then? Or did you stay in the life and you were still just a product of your environment?
I think, you know, after probably when I was really understood the life is the more you're out there doing violent things, you start really understanding. I start seeing guys and I start understanding. This guy ain't doing nothing. This guy's not doing it. This guy's full of shit. I start understanding because I'm really getting street smart. And, you know, you're developing skills and a perception of that world quickly. You know who's full of shit. And you're really learning. And I'm with the best in that life. So I'm not like with small-time underlings. I'm around every top boss around. So, you know, when I'm around these guys, I'm learning firsthand. And I'm understanding the manipulation and Machiavelli that's going on. I'm understanding you can't take that one ride with this guy you're not really good friends with because they might kill you. You know, you start to understand you're getting an edge over everybody else. You're learning not to talk when someone else talks. He said something slick against somebody else. Now you're constantly evaluating things. But so I guess in my mid to late 20s, I knew that this life was bullshit. But you're stuck in it. And at the time, I just kept saying, well, then I'm going to be the strongest guy in this life. And the more they feared me, the more control I got. And everybody did fear me. They could change that all they want. There's nothing I could do about people bullshitting. But anybody, if you really know anybody else, well, then who was the guy everybody feared if it wasn't this guy?
Well, it's like being in a prison without even being behind cells. Now you're stuck in something you can't get out of, right?
Yeah. I mean, listen, you're stuck in that life. You're too far in. Yeah. You want to get out, and there is no retirement plan in that world.
At what point is it too far? At what line do you cross where you're like, you can no longer you can never go back now?
Well, once you start shootings and killings, it's over. But as far as a kid, the first day you sell a drug, the first day you get involved in the street is the first time you're taking the first step of ruining your life. That's why I'm always so strongly advocating for kids not to make that first move. There's nothing in that life but misery. Misery, jail, murder, death, depression, violence. It's just not a good world. And, you know, anybody that says any different, you can't love your kids if you're telling them something different about that world. And people ask me all the time, was it exciting? Yes. Was it fun? Yes. Was there money all over and traveling and girls and fast cars and boats and cigarette boats and fuck yeah, was it great? Excitement, adrenaline? Yeah. Was it worth it? Is the best question. No.
How much money did you make in that life?
Millions. I had fucking money. I threw money around like water. I didn't care about money. I just spent it like crazy, drinking Cristal every night, and dropping 5 dimes back then, 5,000. If you don't know the terminology, for people who listen. 5,000 in those days is big money, but we would do it every night. We were at every club. We were flying to California. I was at the Hermitage. I was paying $2,500 a night in the the late 80s, early 90s. I'm in company of big people like Pavarotti. I didn't even know who he was. I was a dumb kid. Pavarotti joked and laughed. He was my next door neighbor. I didn't know who he was. And he was nice, actually a very nice guy. I was throwing a party at a townhouse, at limousines. And I'm too stupid to know that everybody knows I must be a drug dealer or a gangster. What do they think I am? I'm not polished. You're speaking like an idiot. So they know who you are. You're just too dumb at that time to know that they understand.
Net worth-wise, give me a number. How much do you think you accumulated while in the life as a mobster?
Listen, I rattled this off on different shows. I owned so many houses, and I owned properties that were worth millions. I owned condos in the city worth millions. I owned nightclubs that I was making $3-4 million a year for years. I owned 5 of them after hours. I owned a parking company that got taken from me. It was $17.7 million. It's very hard to tell you that a number like that too, and especially when you have no regard for the money the way. So there was guys that were testifying against me and say I was they didn't know anybody else was more of a maniac than me with money. I'd go into restaurants and pay everybody's tabs. I was just out of my mind with money, and it just came and gone so easy. I took about 10 guys to Cancun. They had no clothes, no money on it. I put them all on a plane and bought them everything when I got there. It's just, no regard. Flew all over the place. And it sounds great, right? Everybody sounds great. But how about the parts they don't want to hear about? When I was in jail and I was in solitary cells and somebody said you were crying. And they were trying to put me down and say you were crying. I laughed. I go, you don't got to put me down and say I was crying. I was fucking crying.
Solitary is insane. The concept of it is just you're in a box.
Well, I was in it for years, but
Right.
they're talking about crying, different parts of my life. We're talking about when you're in jail, talking about when you're in a cell, talking about whenever.
Everyone cries.
People,
I mean,
for the people that want to put on a front, they'll
Right.
say they did. I don't do that. So I tell kids to keep it real.
Yeah.
I've been depressed. I cried. I suffered. I was miserable. I was betrayed. Everybody that was my friend, family, all gave me up, left me, told me to go F myself, girls that supposedly loved me. You're alone, it's over. The money's gone, the life is gone, everything's gone, your power's gone, they're not afraid of you no more. Everybody screws you. The guy that I saved his life, I put him in my nightclub, he fucks me, and then later on, he passed away, so I don't want to talk against him. But this is the life. It's all treachery and bullshit.
why didn't you go into witness protection like all these other guys did when you got out of their life? You weren't afraid of someone coming up behind you, always watching over your shoulder?
But no, it's not witness protection. It's for somebody that did something wrong against somebody. They did it wrong to me. This is the part, why would I? I'm Albanian, right?
But they label you as a rat, though, right?
I don't care. They can label me all they want. I label the whole mafia as rats. I call the mafia rats. I say it every day. Mm-hmm. They're rats. They're rats because of what they did, number one, to me, that they don't do anything to their own bosses that are ratting.
Right.
To their own captains are ratting. Get a list. This is not like some secret.
I got a list.
No, a list. Not of all the mob guys that ratted, you got a list. It's got to be thousands.
So, but the mob is still active today.
Well, then why aren't they killing any of them?
That's what I was going to ask you.
I don't know. Ask them, because I know most of them are frauds. I'm not a mobster anymore. In my day, yeah.
Who are the frauds?
We would have killed them.
Besides Sammy, we talked about Sammy. Who are the frauds?
The rest of them, any of them that ain't doing any what you just said. If the boss of the banana, well, he's dead now, but he was in Florida. He wasn't in Cancun somewhere hiding. These guys anybody that cooperated, like Sammy, you're in Arizona. For me, I would have walked there and killed him. I mean, listen, I don't get it, but I'm not in that life. And what I'm telling you about that life is, it's all bullshit. So there's nothing to get. So when they talk about rats, they're rats. The people that betray their friends and kill them, right?
Okay.
If you're a mobster and you kill your friend, you're a rat. The person that kills somebody because of a dollar bill, you're a rat. The person that talks bad about a cop because he's a cop wearing a uniform protecting his family, he's a rat. Because when their mother's walking down the block, and I've said this all over the shows, take any gangster, take any street kid, take anybody and tell them your mother's walking down the block and two guys are pulling in an alley to rape her. Do you want them to call the cop that's across the street? Or you rather let the guy say, no, don't call the police because that guy's a rat if he calls the police. Let them rape my mother. Let me hear their answer. Let me hear their answer. If their son's about to get killed and there's 3 police officers in the store next door, and if you call that cop, they're going to save his son. Would they rather have those guys let them kill their son? Let me hear their answer. So what I'm telling you, they're all full of shit.
But who's they?
The mob. Or anybody that talks against a legitimate life.
So is Anthony Arlotta legit?
I don't know what he does anymore with his life now. I know I'm legit. I don't know what the rest of these guys
When
do.
they were active.
When they were active?
Was he legit?
Was he a gangster?
Yeah.
I don't know. I wasn't with him if he did that shooting. You know, so you got to ask him details of what happened. I wasn't there.
What about guys in New York like Gene Barillo?
He admits he's not a killer. He didn't grow up in an era of the shootings like that.
So why do people call
he was
him
a
a mob
heist guy.
associate? Yeah.
Well, he was a heist guy. He did do a lot of that. I mean, as a heist guy, he was a legitimate guy. You know?
Is Phil Leonetti legit?
Who?
Phil Leonetti?
Phil Leonetti says he was, I believe he was, I don't know what these guys actually did. Did he do actual murders himself? I know Nicky Scoffer was a serious, maniac, actually. Was a real guy, tough guy, little guy, but he was tough. So you can't say that he wasn't legit in that life back in then. But Leonetti, I don't know what he actually did himself.
So you guys wouldn't sit around back in the day around a table and talk about, did you hear about this guy from Philly? Did you hear about this guy from Boston? Do you guys know this
We all
name,
know each
that
other.
name?
Of course we know each other.
So you didn't hear these names back in the day and
Of
what they were
course.
doing?
I didn't know Leonetti like that, but I knew Scarf, so I knew Nicky, I knew his son. So I would go hang out down there. So, I'd be in those clubs. I'd be at Jerry Blavitt's place. I'd be at Ashante. I'd be at places they hung. I drank with all of them. Half those guys were in jails with me. But in that life, you're not asking them, hey, did you kill him? Did that guy kill him? But you don't.
But the reputation perceives them, no?
No, because I want to explain something.
Sure.
In our era, in the 80s and 90s, you could stay with my friend Joe in the other room and Sal, right? They see them with me. They think automatically they killed guys too because that's what I did, right? So now they never did. They're regular guys. All I have to do is get dressed with them, put a suit and tie and smoke a cigar, go in a bar. You own the bar, and I tell you, because you never met them, you don't know who they are. That's Joe and Sal, and make sure you treat them right. They're just like me. They do a lot of work with me. It's a lie. But I tell you that because I want them to have a perception so people respect them. So if I send them somewhere, they can go pick up money. They can do whatever I want. People are going to think they're just like me. It's as simple as that. But the difference is in the 80s and the 90s, everybody was shooting and killing guys. So you don't know who the killer was as long as he conducted himself in a proper manner in that world. Okay. Now, no one's doing anything. It's a different era.
Yeah.
There is no killing. So when they're walking around like they're killers, they're not. Because nobody's getting killed. Nobody's getting shot.
Do you know anybody still in the life?
Huh?
Do you know anybody still in the life?
I don't talk to them. I mean, you hear names. I know guys that grew up with me. They're probably still in the life.
You don't have to give me names. Just like a number. 10 guys? 5 guys?
Very little. I don't even think 5. You just, a lot of them died naturally. A lot of them died in jails. A lot of them cooperated. So, this life's not about longevity. Do you know what average boss in the street?
7 years.
Yeah, 5 to 7 years. It's nothing. It's amazing. So why would somebody want to go into this life?
So there's still legitimate guys back in the day in the Mafia.
Well,
today.
there's always tough guys around. I'm not saying that either. I'm just saying 95 to 98% of them are full of shit.
No, I know. I'm just curious. Today,
There's 2%
2025.
that are legit.
Got you. Okay, so then in that case, let's be honest. John Gotti ruined the Mafia, right? Because you were just saying it. You're not supposed to know what people did. It's supposed to be a secret underground syndicate, first of all. But then now the media put so much fame on this guy, right? Where now everyone wants to be on the magazines, the photo ops, paparazzi, whatever. So did John Gotti need to happen and then die so that the Mafia gets a clean slate and goes back to being the underground syndicate that it is today? Because now I can't name you one guy except maybe Barney Belomo. That's the only name I can give you today that's probably an active guy. Other than that, they're all underground now, and that's because I think John Gotti ruined that perception for the mafia. What do you think of that?
They're not really underground because there's still the same big mouths that are out there that ain't about nothing, that are telling girls stories. You just don't live around here. And you don't live in the neighborhoods where these mob guys are. So the same guys going to the bars and clubs, they're getting dressed up, telling girls they're gangsters and they're mob guys, and they're telling dumb stories. And the girls tell everybody because they want to be noticed. So they sit at a table, 15 of them, 20 of them, whatever place they go to, and they act like fucking idiots because they're not, these are grown men. You should conduct yourself like men, not like little boys trying to impress little girls so they can get laid, that they're gangsters. And they're not doing anything. So, like basically white collar criminals now. And good for them. If they can make money, I'm not begrudging them that they're making money without hurting anybody. But stop trying to pretend that you're killers, because you're not. And those 2% I'm talking about from the old days and are still around that world, I don't know what they're doing around that world, because they know themselves it's done. So for some reason, they got this insecurity that they got to stay in that life that is about nothing now. It's zero. You can't even trust each other to tell each other anything, because I just told you, a list of all the bosses are ratting. It's not even the underlings, it's all the bosses. So now that you got all the bosses ratting, and the perfect example, I said, I could say it one more time, is if they tell you they're real and they exist, well, give them the list of 1,000 mob-made guys. Forget about associates. Made guys that ratted and you just did nothing to them. Why? You guys are the mob, aren't you? You guys are killers, right? You guys are paying attention to what this guy's doing, that guy that's doing, or that other guy's doing, but you're not paying attention to Sammy Gravano, right? He was the underboss. Why not? Or Leonetti, because you brought up Leonetti's thing. And I'm not advocating again for anybody to hurt any of these guys. I'm just saying, they're not this ain't the 80s, this ain't the 90s, this ain't the 70s. This is an era of almost white-collar criminal scams that they're doing and making money, and God bless them, go make your money. But when you're calling me a rat, no, you guys are. You guys rat in every which way. You betray everything there is. You betray your own family, you betray your own kids, you betray yourselves, you steal money from each other, you fucking lie to each other, you kill each other in the past. There's nothing to say. Like I said, I already explained it. I'm sitting in a penitentiary in Brazil. I'm in the jail. They're in the street. They're the ones doing all the betraying. Go get the list of all the guys that testified against me at the trial in 2006 when I wasn't there in Florida. A list. It's not like one or two names. You can go through that list. Go see how many guys went to the grand jury against me. All made guys, all guys acting bosses, positions, captains. Nothing else to say. But since the mafia wanted to be the mafia, forget about me. Why didn't they take care of it when I was in a Brazil penitentiary? Why didn't anybody do anything about it? It was open game to go rat. Well, knock yourselves out. And whatever they're doing today is the same thing. Knock yourselves out. There's nothing to do with me. But, do I respect that life? Never. And, going to witness protection for what? For them betraying me? No, I'm not. For what reason? Am I afraid of that? No, I'm afraid of God. That's it. That's the only one I'm going to respect, the only one I pray to, the only one I ask for forgiveness from. And I'm a different guy, that's it. And I don't bother those guys. I don't have nothing to do with them or any other thing. So whatever they're doing is their business.
So being from New York, that's the place where everyone looked at as like the crown of the empire of the mafia, right? All the movies show it there. The guys you talk about from being from the boroughs, the 5 boroughs. So when you hear about the guys from like Connecticut or from Boston and Philly, these places, was there like a snotty attitude towards them being from New York, meaning like, oh, they're not from the New York families, who gives a shit about them? Or was there more of a mutual respect, or no?
No, it was more what you said.
Snotty.
It's more of a snotty attitude. Like,
why?
Because they're from little areas with this, 20 guys around, and that's it. In New York, you got 40 guys in every corner, so it's a little more dangerous, a little hard to call. It was just a little more active, so everybody would come to New York, and they get some respect, but it wouldn't be the same. As soon as they leave, there's he's from Connecticut, or he's from, it's just the way it is.
So it seems that today everyone's got a beef with Joey Merlino. I spoke to Merlino, and he refuses to do interviews until he's ready, right? But I've spoken to him behind the scenes. So what's this beef with Joey Merlino? And you were actually contracted to kill him back in Philly back in the day.
Yeah, that was in the 80s, early 80s, mid 80s, whatever it was, mid 80s.
Why were you contracted to kill him? And do you have a beef with him, or like what was the issue?
No, I got nothing against. Actually, I speak up for him. Actually, I said, he's out of the life. He's a businessman now. He's like everybody else, trying to profit off of TV. What's wrong with that? A lot of guys would curse him out about it, and I stuck up for him about it. So, listen, whatever he did in the past, I'm not judging him, just like I don't like anybody judging me.
But why do these guys hate him now compared to other guys? It seems like there's a group that just despise Joey Merlino.
Jealousy. I said it, several times on TV shows, on documentaries. I just think it's jealousy. The guy survived the life, right? He didn't rat. If you're in that life, right, that means something to everybody. Mm-hmm. He didn't rat, so, and he's successful. So, you could take my cat, right, throw him in the other room, flip him up in the air, and he lands on his feet. So does he. So don't hate on the guy because he's, listen, I don't hate on anybody. If somebody, speaks out against me, obviously I would protect myself. And, but when somebody's not bothering me, I don't bother them. So, it's these guys that are doing that are bothering them. They don't really have any justification because I don't think they have any interaction with the guy. So if you have no interaction, what are you hating him for? He's making money legitimately in this genre. He's making money in restaurants. He's making money living a good life. He's not killing anybody, so leave the guy alone.
Louis Tura contracted you, or tried to contract you to get him back in 1994.
Yeah.
Why did he?
It was before 94.
Was it? Okay, then I got that date wrong. Why did he want you specifically? Just because he knew you were capable?
He had mutual friends that I had, yeah, and they told him they came out of jail. They were Philly guys that were friends with New York guys. They asked me to meet them at the Aztec Club in Philly and Delaware Avenue. I met them. We sat in the back room downstairs, and they offered me a lot of things besides money, opportunities, drug opportunities, parking opportunities, which they gave me as an upfront gesture. And I ended up taking the Aztec Club as was at that time probably making a couple thousand on the weekend. Was pretty good money, just a gesture for me to come and sit down and talk about it. And then I turned them away. I told them, no,
Why?
I'm not interested.
Why?
Because they told me what the beef was about, number one. Two, they had an ongoing thing going on for years. They were talking to everybody, trying to get him killed and back and forth, talking about grenades, talking nonsense. And
you called him a cowboy, Louis Tura. You said he was too much of a cowboy.
Listen, unfortunately, his father gets killed, I believe, going to a doctor's appointment. His uncle ratted on him, wore a wire on Louis, and Louis hung himself in jail. And again, look at the life. Look what it brings everybody. I'm always going to go back to that. And he was a cowboy because of his actions. He was a good-looking kid. He had a son. And he never got to raise his son. A beautiful kid. He had 1 million girls. The guy had a couple of bucks. And you don't need this. This is why I'm always saying the same thing. And I don't really know how that beef started between them or what happened. But it ended up badly for the Tura family. So, again, it's a miserable life.
You speak up for Joey Merlino now. Does he know that you were almost contracted to kill him?
Yeah. That was on Philly Fox News years ago. And, he knows. He understood the life. It was nothing against him. I didn't know the guy personally. Later on, I met him. Actually, I went out with him several times with friends of his. And some of those friends of his, their fathers got killed and other people got killed. And that's that life again. It's just a bad life of treachery and betrayal, and friends aren't really friends, and you think your friends are the guys that are going to end up killing you. Who knows? It's just back to the same storyline that it's nothing about friendship, it's about betrayal.
In 2022, you actually have a hilarious quote that I think now looking back at it. You said, politicians are worse than anybody now. 3 years later, you are part of the council of the New Jersey town of Englishtown, right?
Yeah.
Technically, political role, politician. What's your life like now going from being a mobster to a politician? And do you think that quote that you said is still holding true? Are politicians still worse than gangsters?
A lot of them, yeah.
Yeah.
Look at the money they're stealing. Look at all the funds, for the people that are naive or uneducated, and I hate to use the word stupid, but for the ones that are stupid because they're brainwashed, almost like the way I believe in the mob, they believe in these guys that are sending billions and trillions of dollars to other countries so they can get kickbacks. And there was just something on the Senate floor that in 73 days, the Biden administration gave out billions of dollars, more than we gave out in 15 years, to businesses with no background check. They don't even know where the money went. And that is the corruption I'm talking about. And all these people like Elizabeth Warren, that's worth $100 million plus off a bullshit salary, whatever she gets, $160,000. Let's say it's $300,000. Where'd you get $100 million from? They're thieves. They're gangsters. They should be locked up for RICO for all the scams they got and all the money they're stealing.
Has there been an issue with people's perception of you from the former life that you come from, now being a representative of the community in the political form? Has any pushback been given towards you? Talk to me about that.
The problem is in life, right? They tell you that you get the opportunity of second chances and change your life. And although I changed my life, people still want to talk about me as if I'm the guy from 20 years ago.
Isn't this the American dream, though, where people can come over, start over again, and then make their way up into the hierarchies of life?
Yeah, it is the American dream, but the problem is, once you have a tarnished background like I do, people just don't want to let it go. People just want to constantly use it and attack you, even though that's not who you are anymore. And, it's not like a year has passed. It's almost 20 years. And, you're going to constantly get negative people coming after you, and unfortunately, that's life, and you got to put up with it. I wish it wasn't that way, but it just seems to be that way.
Are you still capable of committing the same actions from your former life in your early 20s as you are today?
Nah. I would never even think of it. It's not my mindset. I wouldn't do it. The only thing I would do that any father would do is protect their family. I don't think that's me being actions of my past as a gangster. It's just me being a dad and a family, looking out for your family like any dad would do.
Do you worry about your children's perception of you?
Nah. I think my children spent enough time with me, understand things over the years of what they see themselves. They read the actions of others, that we have good relationships. So,
do people around town look at you and be like, "Oh, that's that mobster guy"? Is there still that sense of fear that you sense when you meet people, or is it more so of a healthy respect? This is what he used to be. He's not that way anymore.
No, the good people show you healthy respect, and they don't talk like that. The other people purposely want to fuck with you because they know that you're never going to do anything anymore. So they just keep instigating you, keep harassing you.
They do that to you in person, or is it online?
No, online. Nobody does it in person, but they harass you, and they got their own miserable lives. Obviously, you wouldn't do that, Anybody that does that, there's something mentally wrong with.
It's easy online. I was just talking to my buddies behind cameras. We've been called Mossad agents. I'm the furthest thing from Jewish you could possibly think of. I was like, all right, now I know half the shit I see online. It's just bullshit. It's crazy. John Alite? Is it Alite? Alite or Elite? Why can't these guys get your last name right? Elite.
In Albania, it's John Alite.
Alite. Sorry, there you go. That's what I was trying to go for.
In America, they would call me Alite because the teachers couldn't pronounce it right and just left it because they never said it. And when I came back from jail, everybody used Elite with my kids, which was okay because instead of saying Elite, because they couldn't ever pronounce it right, Elite, we just left it. So everybody pronounces it all different ways. Even I do now. So if I'm in Europe, I pronounce it correctly. When I'm in my neighborhood, it's Alite or it's Elite when I'm here. So depending, I don't really care how anybody says it.
Yeah, John Alite, thank you so much for
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.